Welcome back to Work in Progress, where we unpack the human side of innovation. This is a series about real people, bold projects, and the stories behind them. Here at Thinkering Collective, we believe who you are shapes what you build, and your stories and your why shape who you build it for. Today's guest is with us. She's an educator, innovator, champion of equitable STEM access across Nigeria. She's the visionary behind the STEM Safari Express, a mobile modular STEM lab designed to bring hands-on real world learning to underserved schools and communities, one stop at a time. Her work addresses a pressing challenge. Many schools in rural Nigeria lack labs, material, trained science educators sometimes, and then there's the logistic hurdle that all rural communities face. But that didn't stop pointing out the problem, but not stopping there, building the solution. And her approach moves literally around from community to community, building it, improving it. So so we're going to dive in. Dr. Oloranola, can you introduce yourself and bring anything to the table that I left out?
So I'm Oluwakemi and I'm an educational technologist here, but also a STEM advocate here in Nigeria, and really do have that passion to see every child given the opportunity to engage with STEM as practically as possible. Well, I would say this really is born from a passion. I do identifying being in the STEM field, and also I'm a STEM teacher because I also work with the Faculty of Education and Science and Technology Education department specifically. So I know that there's been a lot of challenges with, like you said earlier, access to STEM, especially in the rural areas, budget, resources, lack of labs, and all that. And most times, some of these kids are engaging with STEM, maybe at the upper levels of their secondary school education. And by that time, their decisions are already made. And so, like the name puts it, STEM Safari Express, basically safari, which is an African word. We know when you talk about safari, you want to go on exploration, you want to go on adventure. And then the express there conveys kind of speed and accessibility. So how could we make STEM adventurers and take the exploration with speed and accessibility to this underserved communities? So that's basically the project.
Yeah, I like the express part too, because in my mind, there's also a play in the ability to express who you are and explore and tie in the collaborative, communal aspect of it all. And when we don't have the opportunity to get our hands on like a STEM lab, there's that lack of opportunity to express ourselves. So not only are we like moving and traveling, it's that opportunity to be the human being we were meant to be and put our hands on things and explore. The work you're doing is very inspiring, but it's also got a lot of challenges to it. So you're going to face, hurdles nonstop. What keeps you going in the face of those big challenges and keeps you grounded?
Okay, so I've had that question asked before because sometimes I not as consistently as I would love, and hoping that the STEM Safari Express will give me that consistency. I've always had organized STEM programs for kids, even in these areas. And I've asked people, say, oh, so after this, what next? Because the kids come together and they go back to the schools where they don't have access to this kind of engagement. And I say, for me, if I'm able to spark a fire, I don't know where it will get fanned up, but at least there's something burning within those kids that say, oh, this is something I can do. This is something I can be. And at any other opportunity, somebody else may flame it up. So I'm just okay with sparking that fire of curiosity, that fire of interest, and hoping that along the line, it gets flamed by other kinds of engagements.
You've worked across schools, NGOs, tech. It's like it's the perfect kind of background to like be the person to bring this to life. How has all that shaped the way you approach STEM, maybe differently than others?
Yes, basically, it's beyond a subject because most times we talk, you look at physics or chemistry. It's beyond the subject. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of processing. It's a way of approaching problems, and all that. And so I believe that these skills are more like life skills. Even if you don't eventually find yourself in the STEM career, these are skills that you could always apply even in whatever field you're going to. Computational thinking, how do you decompose issues, how do you synthesize, how do you build, how do you break down, and all that. These are skills that you apply across daily, even your everyday life and across the career fields. I believe these are transferable skills, and if we're able to apply them, the science with the tech, merging, whether we like it or not, we're in the digital period, and we have to get on the boats. We have to get on the bus rather, to take that journey. So it's for me life skills for these kids, the STEM subjects that we normally associate with STEM with.
For me, the STEM subjects have always been the complicated ones I shied away from, and I naturally gravitated towards English and the arts, where I could be creative and think outside the box. There wasn't a right answer. I could read a book and just kind of regurgitate it. And then, the STEM stuff was very, to me, straightforward and in a box. And I'm slowly learning that that's really not the case. It's about making it applicable to whatever you're passionate in. There, it is applicable to that. And if you can tap into that, there's STEM lessons to be learned. So that's all about, that the different points of entry to the lessons. And how do you bring that in with the bus? You got limited space. You got to bring in different points of entry for different kind of grade levels, personalities, experience levels. How do you manage all that in just such a limited square footage?
Okay, so if I replicate what I do on site with the boss, hoping to replicate that with the boss, I think what we do on site when we have these kids come together, we classify them according to their levels, age groups or class levels. And even though we may do the same, maybe magnetism across the levels, but we do them in different contexts, to suit the age groups and all that. And so with the boss, I think it's going to be easier with the boss, because then we will be taking the STEM to them, and we could be working with their timetabling. Okay, so we could have engagements with the lower levels at this visit, and then the next visit have engagements with the uh, upper levels of the school, as against when all of them do come to the on-site, and then we have to differentiate them into classes and all that. And so, basically, with science, it's always foundational. There's the simple aspect to it, and then there's you kind of build on, layer. So you talk about, for instance, take a particular science subject. If you talk about even basic things like matter, there's how young primary grade 6, grade 5 would understand that, and then having that conceptual knowledge, that foundational knowledge, you're coming to meet it in a deeper level in the upper year. It's not difficult for you to grasp. But one of the things we struggled with, I did sciences in my secondary school. Of course, I had a science background. And I struggled a lot because at that stage, a lot of things were kind of abstract. But it's more like, look, just take it in. And when the exams come, you give it out, but you didn't know what it meant beyond the classroom walls and all that. And we're hoping to change that, especially students.
The summary of my schooling career is in one ear, out the other. All my learning really happened outside the classroom, when I could get my hands on a computer or on the internet, or you know wanting to design my own creative project and needing to learn a skill or tool to meet the goal. It's so funny to come to fruition in full circle and just see how that all plays into things. When you describe the STEM Safari Express, we talk about education that moves. What does that mean for you and your students? Education that moves.
Normally, we would say the students come to school, but so they have to come to school to get educated. They have to come to school to learn. But with education that moves, we actually are taking this learning to them where they are at. So hopefully, as we progress with this project, it will not only be the schools, but we could also have community hubs, go to those areas maybe during the weekends and do have an outdoor STEM activity for those kids. And so we kind of disabuse the mind that learning only occurs within the classroom of a school, or what we could learn even underneath a tree. And in those days, actually, we learned a lot sitting under the tree, listening to all that people tell stories and all that. And so we could bring back that kind of learning, where young ones don't only believe that it's when I get to the classroom that I can learn, but I can also learn beyond and outside the classroom.
And not only learn, but can contribute as well, because it's a communal thing. What's the big problem that you're trying to solve with this project? Because on the surface level, it's getting STEM access to students who need it. But what's the big picture problem?
Yes, I would say one, we've talked about accessibility, the lack of labs, resources, and all that for that hands-on engagement with STEM. And then another aspect would be to make it exciting and contextual, because sometimes you think, oh, this is not for you because it's not localized, it's not contextual, and it looks like it's a foreign concept being brought to you, and you just have to learn it to get to the next level and all that. But then I'm hoping that with this, we could contextualize this learning. So activities that'll be done, projects that'll be done will be community-based, community problems, things that they can relate with. that it's close to them, it's at their faces and all that. So that's one of the things. And of course, we want to make learning fun, also the excitement there. So that science, it's mystic, it's boring sometimes and all that is abstract, to make it fun and just, ensure that we create this excitement for learning and students gain this agency for wanting to learn beyond what they're being taught in the classroom and all that. That's explorative mindsets.
All about that. What's the moment, I like to call it a 2 a.m. moment. What's the moment when you realized I had to be the one to build this? You couldn't wait for somebody else to do it.
Okay, so I've had two AM moments. First one brought me to the field I am in right now. Like I said, I had the science background in my secondary school days, and many years back, like I'm in the education sector space right now, but I didn't start out wanting to be an educator. I remember one particular day I was watching an animation on chemistry bonding, and just the fact that I could visualize, I could see how the atoms were separating and the electrons and all that were, you know, could visualize the process. And I thought to myself, I said, wow, if I had learned science this way, I'm sure I wouldn't have had the issues I had with recalling and retention and all that. And I was interested in who are those who made learning this visual, this impactful and all that. So that took me to the path I am today as an educational technology instructional designer and all that. And then for this project that I do with the kids, I had an opportunity to be outside the country on the conference and two conferences back to back within that period. And there were student sections where students were presenting their STEM activities. They had their poster presentations and stand. And I remember engaging with a particular, I think she was 10-year-old girl. And, she took me through and all that. And I said, and then the next conference, there was a panel for young innovators also. They were between 10 to 13. That was the oldest age on that panel. And they were talking about what they were doing. And it got me thinking. And I thought to myself, I said, the kids in my community are equally as intelligent and all that. But I guess the challenge I was able to pinpoint there was the exposure. I said the difference between these kids and my kids in my community is that these ones have been exposed and my kids haven't yet been exposed. And so how do I bring this exposure to them? How do I help them begin to think in this manner? And so that was when I began to organize the summer holiday periods for STEM activities, summer camps for the kids. And then we went on to do the STEM outreach where we do once every month for free for these kids to just come and have the STEM hands-on. And so hoping that I will using this STEM Safari as the next level for this level of exposure.
How does when you close your eyes and the Safari Express pulls up to that new community that's never seen it before, like what's that experience like?
I can tell you for sure that I'm hoping I'll be able to keep my tears, but I can tell you for sure it will be exciting because I haven't done it at this level, but I've been able to do a few engagements when I just put my things into the car, my projectors and all that. Because there was a time I was with what we used to call Skype Master Teacher Program. And we would go into the schools and connect them with schools in other countries. I'll actually carry my devices, my projectors and all that because I know they don't have these resources. And you could my satisfaction was just the faces of the kids, the excitement, the fact that they're connecting with the world, right at their spot there and all that. And also that realization that the kids beyond the screen, they're my age group. And we kind of know the same things, because we do the questioning and all that. And so but that ability to connect with the world was, the smile I get every time I do that and the excitement in the classroom was enough to take me back there and take me back again. And I'm sure that this will be something at a greater scale because even when I have the kids come into during the outreach and all that, they're always excited, and they keep coming back I've had kids who consistently, actually before we started the bus pickup would trek. They would walk down all the way from their homes just to be at the site that Saturday we were having these 10 kids because they normally would enjoy this. Then this is not something that is very common in their classrooms. So I'm very certain, I can see it already, the reception and the excitement and then the learning and the growth, which is much more important that these kids will be experiencing as we take the STEM Safari Express to them.
That part of you so far in this journey? I know you've had some Thinkering mentors and some of our partners who's helped out. Who else has been there along the way?
So I've had various, besides the Tinkering group and partners, like the STEM for Safari wasn't just a thought that was birthed when I started the Tinkering. It's just something I looked forward to doing. I had reached out also before, and nothing seemed to be coming forward. So I kind of shelved it, hoping that one day to come alive again. And I'm glad that Tinkering Fellowship has brought it to life. But beyond that, I've had other women in the STEM field who's supported what we do here. More recently, I had STEM Wonders, like I said, based in the UK, who reached out to us and been able to support us with resources and sometimes with the materials we'll use to carry out some of these STEM activities. And they've been so much of a support. I've had other friends also in the STEM fields also support. Initially, I had a friend also here in Nigeria, but in Lagos specifically, who was then doing the Airbus project. And then she would freely send her team here. I would just get the kids organized and they would run the robotics program and all that before the funding for that project for her stopped. But I've had people support what we do here in this side of town.
From what you're telling me, geographically now it's a global movement focused on local impact, and it's a scalable model that can be, applied anywhere, which is a huge deal. What kind of collaboration and support are you still looking for? Like, if we have, like, snap our fingers and the perfect partners are out there, like, what are we looking for and who are we asking to come to the table?
So partners who will support with the kids, definitely science kids, STEM kids, and all that. That will be also very good. And partners who will support, of course, with the funding to kind of kit up and get the van, kit up the van and all that. But then the kits are also necessary. So if maybe you have STEM companies, STEM organizations who could say, okay, this is 1, 2, 3 packs from our kits and all that. That would also be good. And then partners who would help with maybe monthly, annual fundings just to keep the program running through the year so that it's not a flash in the pan project. And but we're also looking at local organizations also. We definitely will be wanting to partner with local organizations here and maybe NGOs, because I'm in a community of NGOs also. And so those who may be interested in also supporting and looking at working with maybe the ministry here to get access to some of these public schools, especially. So quite a lot of anybody who believes that every child deserves experience. Those are the kind of partners I am looking for.
Knocking on those doors. What have you learned about yourself as an educator throughout this process and project?
As an educator, I've personally have learned to not to be assumptuous. Let me use the word because sometimes you think you know, and sometimes you think you know the level at which these kids know, and then you come together and you're amazed how much more they know or how much more they can learn in a very short period of time, and how much deeper insight they could even have into some of the things that you're bringing to them than you had. So I think I've learned to be that educator who takes these children my students to the window and asks, what do you see? Than say, oh, if you look through the window, you get to see a tree or a car parked. I rather ask them, what do you see? Because I know that beyond seeing the tree or the car, there might be other things I never saw that they did see that would enrich the learning. So that's one thing I have learned as an educator with all this.
Amazing. What does humanizing education look like to you? Because we talk about, technology, but like the goals for everything to be human, right? So how do we do that?
Humanizing education, basically, for me, I put in a simple word, how does this education answer to my problems as a human being, and how does it make me a better person? And how can I use it also to better the lives of other people? So that's, for me, having not seen education as a stand-alone, a concept that it's unique to itself, but basically what purpose is it serving to me as a human, and how can I take this also to benefit other people, to improve other people's lifestyles, life being, and all that. So that basically is answering to me and answering to others, and that's for me what's humanizing education.
We what to that the quiet educator out there who's got the quiet dream and they're sitting on it and they want to build something. What do you say to them?
I would say start small. Start small. I believe with every big dream that you have, if you are able to decompose it into parts, that's one that you can do immediately while you wait for the big bang to come in. So start small. So if you're able to look at that big dream you have and break them down into small bits, and of course, know how they connect. So you pick the one that at the stage that you are and at the stage that you are with the resources that you have, you can begin to do. So you're not waiting till you have it all figured out together or have all the resources together, but you're at least attending to your dream, no matter how small. I'm just glad that I can actually relive this dream again of the STEM Safari Expresses. I think it's something that has been in my heart for over 5 years. And at one point, I tried to bring it out, push it out. I did, but nothing, I wasn't able to pull it off. Like I said, I kept the dream alive. And so when I didn't have that, at least I started out having still engaged kids with the STEM. And now it's coming back again alive. And I'm hoping that this time around, it's a dream come true eventually.
In closing, what does the world need more of?
So what does the world need more of? The world needs more of how do I put it? Humans, in the sense that we need more to see, because sometimes with the technology and all that, we lose the ability to see one another, literally. Yeah. And so I think the world needs more of people who are able to see one another, identify, acknowledge, I see you, and I kind of, I don't know how best to put it, but I'm sure you get me. So the world needs more of that, people who beyond the screen to the persons. Yes.
I like it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. That was Dr. Oloranola, a Thinkering Fellow whose work reminds us that innovation should move towards people, not away from them. And this has been Work in Progress, and we want to remind you that the world needs exactly who you are meant to be.